Positive thoughts in this system of things and namaste. So I wanted to talk about how to overcome shame and guilt, which to me can be seen as a disease in these times. Speaking about this, so speaking from a spiritual sense, um, there's a vibrational scale. Okay, at the top of the vibrational scale of energy, you've got peace and love and harmony. Um, and speaking as a light worker, at the bottom of the scale, you've got what you class as shame and guilt. Okay, so the most difficult feelings we ever have to deal with is basically it's like a disease in your daily life. Um, to talk to you about overcoming those dreadful thoughts. It's like a succubus concerning your thoughts of guilt and shame, having to live with that. So I want to talk about the different methods used, basically, to stop feeling that shame, stop those feelings of guilt when it comes to, um, you know, taking control of your life to be free and happy. So if you define shame as a feeling of embarrassment, basically, and likewise, feeling humiliation in relation to the perception of having done something wrong. Those feelings that you feel. So it could be seen as dishonourable, or embarrassing, or immoral, or improper. It can be seen as that way when you get those feelings. There's many people who feel shame, and they will not look at you, or they feel embarrassed, or feeling an awful sense of shame. They'll put their head down, or they'll try and avoid you because of the shame that they're feeling. They may blush, or or they may become really embarrassed. So the feeling a sense of shame. So when you define guilt, uh, as a self-conscious emotion, it's a negative evaluation of the self, feeling distressed, sense of failure, feelings of blame. I shouldn't have done that, and that can manifest. So you may ask yourself, why do many have a feeling of more guilt, more shame than before? And that guilt and shame together can be seen as a perception, basically, of what we did. Um, you know, not have on social media years ago. You can hide it from the social media, but your every move on social media platforms, doing something like that, so you can escape now, becoming more and more difficult to get away from those feelings and emotions of those shame and guilt. Um, and it's become more and more difficult to try and escape that when it comes to social media platforms. Um, from feelings of guilt and shame, basically. And many are now comparing themselves. Oh, no one else does this or messes up, or nobody else has done that on social media. I've noticed how people can do shaming. They've even heard of revenge and porn. People, put porn up people and pictures, or pictures of even not even you. um, with your face on it, and to make you feel shameful. They make you feel embarrassed, shameful, horrible, other people's perception. After all, if no one knew you did nothing wrong, no one knew. Um, you feel less guilty, less shameful. As a child, it's easy to make them feel ashamed, and many come to me through experience as a child, in which they had their hands in their bed and told to get their hands out, and they had to sleep their hands on the sheet every night. You know, an obsessive mother, for example, the fact that she might touch herself if she did, and that would be so dirty. So yet kids love doing that and ask why, because it feels kind of nice. And it's easy to make children feel shame for liking their body or touching themselves or carrying those feelings everywhere. But you know, or if you were sexually abused as a child or at a young age, um, basically going through something like that, uh, you know, there's feelings of feeling ashamed and guilt and feeling dirty, taking away that childlike innocence that we all have. So it's easy to feel trauma in childhood and made to feel shameful, and can leave you feeling tremendous guilt and shame because of that. And shame can be seen by society as something you did which is wrong. And uh, you know, the guilt is I took the money from my mum's purse, I cheated in an exam, or I kissed my friend's boyfriend or girlfriend. I feel so guilty. Or the biggest shame comes from childhood trauma or perception of doing something which should be deeply, deeply embarrassing and to many. And then you have the pressure of social media as more scrutiny, more observation, more judgment than ever before. And then you have the challenges of guilt about how you are, and you feel guilty you don't see my mum, or I don't visit my parents, or I feel guilty I have more than my friends, for example, or I feel guilty that I'm, you know, having another baby, or my friend can't even have one. I'm guilty I can't get pregnant, and you can feel guilty about eating even. Uh, Too much food, you can feel guilty, or you've eaten the wrong foods and too much of. I feel guilty, you know, because you've eaten all that food. You know, I feel guilty that I want more of someone else. Let's talk about how you deal with these feelings of guilt and shame. Well, we'll talk about that in the next podcast. So we'll do part 2 of this, how to overcome shame and guilt, which can be seen as a disease in these times, to be quite honest. So we'll carry on in part 2. So bye for now. Positive thoughts in the system things, and namaste.